Captain, the reason I'm making this video is because you weren't there when I was supposed to present my oral presentation of film critique. I went to the classroom and you weren't there, so yeah, I'm making this video to make up for that, and hopefully you'll grade this instead of just giving me a 0. Today's date is January 24th, 2014. Just so you know, I'm making the presentation when I was supposed to. Okay, let's get started then. My country was England, and I chose to film 28 Days Later. The director of the movie is Danny Boyle. He's directed other films such as Sunshine, Trainspotting, Slumdog Millionaire, Trance, 127 Hours, A Life Less Ordinary, The Beach, and Shallow Grave. He's also an award-winning director who won an Oscar for Best Achievement in Directing for Slumdog Millionaire. And he was nominated for 2 other Oscars for Best Motion Picture of the Year for Slumdog Millionaire and Best Writing for an Adapted Screenplay for 127 Hours. The writer of the film 28 Days Later is Alex Garland. He's written another film for Danny Boyle that goes by the name of Sunshine. And he's written 2 other films that Danny Boyle hasn't worked on by the name of Dread and Never Let Me Go. The cast of the film consists of Cillian Murphy, Naomi Harris, Brendan Gleeson, Megan Burns, and Christopher Eccleston. The 2 main characters in the film are played by Cillian Murphy and Naomi Harris. Cillian Murphy plays a bike messenger who wakes up from a coma 28 days after a virus breaks out, and he goes by the name of Jim. Naomi Harris plays Selena, a survivor that Jim meets on his travels in England. Brendan Gleeson plays Frank, the father of a young teenage girl during the outbreak, who is played by Megan Burns and goes by the name of Hannah. And Christopher Eccleston plays a military major who is the leader of a small military squad that is surviving out in the country of England, countryside. The main plot of the movie is that several activists break into a animal testing facility and unintentionally free infected chimpanzees that carry a disease called rage. And what the disease does is if any of the blood or saliva of the infected gets into any of your orifices, like your eyes, your mouth, any cuts you have, then you become infected and you basically turn into a zombie that's very angry. And the story pretty much follows the character of Jim, who wakes up 28 days after the initial outbreak of the virus, and he wakes up from a coma from a bike accident, some sort of bike accident. And he's seeking other survivors to accompany him as he escapes from all the infected areas. The production of the film is rather low compared to most Hollywood movies nowadays, or big budget or big name movies. The value was set at $8 million, and most of the budget was spent on filming permits and on the actors as well, and things like props and that kind of stuff. The movie was always filmed on location. They never filmed on any sets for the movie, which I thought was really cool because it really immersed you in the world that Danny Boyle created for the film. It was filmed in 2002 and released in 2003. The movie was primarily filmed at night and during the early mornings so the crew would avoid getting caught and getting fined, or the police would be able to block traffic and pedestrians easily, so they would have ease with filming the movie. The style of the movie is rather unique because they chose to film with XL1 cameras to intentionally give it a low resolution and give it more of a gritty feel, rather than like high resolution and not very clear picture. This was intended. This was a directorial. This was the intention of the director, because he wanted the viewer to feel like they were survivors and they were really in the world that Jim was in as well. and it was just intended to give a gritty feel and not just a very like clean feel that most movies have nowadays. The undertones of the film are depict human nature, because over the course of the film, Jim encounters 3 groups of survivors, and they all have very different outlooks on how to survive during this outbreak and how to interact with each other. Such as the first group, they're very survival oriented. They don't let anything slow them down. If anyone's slowing them down, then they either kill them or leave them. It's a very radical sole survivor kind of attitude, and Jim is all new to this as he's progressing through the film. So we're pretty much in his shoes because we've never seen any of this and he's never seen any of it. So we're pretty much experiencing it as he's experiencing it. We don't know who these people are. He doesn't know who these people are. He doesn't understand how things work, and we don't understand how the things work in the film either. So we get a really good sense of how he's feeling, because he's shocked or he's pleased at what he sees, because whatever reminds him of the world before the outbreak pleases him, such as the second group that he meets, which is Frank and Hannah. In the first group of survivors, he meets Selena, who then tags along with him, and she sort of starts to change her notion of what surviving really is. She changes from the really sole survivor attitude to the mentality of the second group that they meet, which is Frank and Hannah, the father and daughter. That they pretty much bring in anyone they can find, and they shelter them, and they're very family oriented. Their main focus is like to preserve what human nature really is, and to sort of project a kindness towards others, which is what they do with Jim and Selena by helping them and sheltering them from the infected. And the third group of survivors that Jim encounters is the military squad led by Christopher Eccleston, who plays Major Henry West. And their idea of survival is very much more radical than the others, because they're all men, and the men are worried that their legacy won't continue. So all the male survivors that they've been bringing in, they've just been killing, and they only care about the female survivors, because they can have children with the female survivors, and that way that there really is a point for them to survive, because without women they don't really see the point in surviving. Speaking more of the final encounter in the film, the final group of survivors, which is the military squad, offers a very existentialist view of what's happening, because what they propose is that none of this is new, none of this is different from the normal world, because the infected are just killing to survive, and the survivors are killing to survive as well. And they're saying that that's just pretty much a return to normality, and that nothing's really changed, that it's just normal, just a sort of different type of scenario. And the movie does sort of beg the question towards the end of it, are the survivors really any different from the infected that they're fighting and running away from? Because they're both quite savage in nature, because they will kill in very brutal ways to survive, and they're just very maniacal, I guess, in their manner. And that's pretty much the message that the movie gives you, is that are humans really any different from like the monsters that we imagine? Are we any different from that? Like, why do we put ourselves on such a high pedestal? And that's pretty much my film that I chose to watch. Thanks for watching.